Okay, let's talk about Zeri. Zeri, the poster child of AD carry champions. Zeri, the 100% pick or ban marksman in pro play. Zeri has had a wild success story ever since her release, but it looks like this story now finally comes to an end. Riot have just announced the utmost brutal Zeri nerfs imaginable, and once they ship, the champion will just be gone. Anyway, let's have a look at what we know so we can then theory craft a new playstyle for Zeri going forward, because if you want to keep playing Zeri in the future, you will have to make some major adjustments. And most likely, she will still only be a shadow of her former self, even after the few Zeri mains who will remain have constructed the new optimal build for her. So if you want to know exactly what Riot are planning for this champion, feel free to pause the video here, but the gist of it is as follows. Zeri got designed with a very interesting premise in mind. The gimmick of the champion is that your right click works like a spell, whereas your actual auto attack is on your Q button. This made Zeri quite similar to Ezreal, who also mainly attacks with his Q, and as a consequence the item Sheen and all the items that built from it had perfect synergy with Zeri. She could press Q to fire an auto attack, but the act of pressing the Q key in the first place triggered Sheen's effect, thereby amplifying the damage from your Q. As a consequence, Trinity Force and Essence Reaver had been powerful core items for Zeri, carrying large portions of her damage. But this interaction between Zeri's Q and Sheen is now gone. Riot are removing that combo by now treating Q fully as an auto attack, both the projectile itself and now also the act of pressing Q. You will no longer trigger Sheen by using Q, making Sheen and its upgrades utterly useless on Zeri. If you are buying a Sheen item on this champion going forward, you are actively trolling. But what are the alternatives really? As of right now, Zeri's standard build looks something like this. You have your Triforce for Sheen spam, Hurricane and Hydra for wave clear so the enemy cannot hide behind minions to avoid your damage, and then your standard crit marksman endgame items. So the legendary items in this build will still be as important as ever, and I don't really see why they would change, even with a different mythic. But when Triforce is no longer an option, what mythic items are left for Zeri to explore? Well, one idea would be the new Rageblade, since Rageblade is a natural combo with Runar's Hurricane, an item that Zeri always needs due to the aforementioned reasons. The bolts from Hurricane would deal a lot more damage with Rageblade, since they only apply a small percentage of your regular auto attack damage, whereas on-hit damage is fully applied without penalty. In addition to that, Titanic Hydra is also an on-hit item itself, so the phantom attack from Rageblade would amplify Hydra's DPS as well. However, this is where the fun already ends. Zeri will never be able to fully unlock Rageblade's potential like Kog'Maw or Kai'Sa can. With a max attack speed of 1.5, you are mathematically always better off when you go for bigger individual hits, which also means sacrificing your crit chance is a bad idea. But even worse would be the new build path in the early game. Just the Sheen component used to be such a strong power spike in lane, making each of your Qs or auto attacks or whatever sting that much more. Rageblade? Well, yeah, I guess nothing comes close to old Sheen, so Rageblade's build path is not that much more awkward than those of other mythics. Infinity Edge would be an idea maybe, as this item at least still embraces the concept of big individual hits. But Infinity Edge also has its own problems. The item is incredibly underpowered right now, essentially reverted back to its state before mythic items got introduced, the only difference being that crit damage got massively nerfed. It used to be 225% total damage, but now it's just 210%. So another idea, and this is really just process of elimination, would be Gale Force. The active would give Zeri more burst and sticking power, and I really think the item would be okay-ish. Well, pretty much for the same reason Jhin buys this, which is the fact that Infinity Edge kinda sucks. However, maybe it is also just time to abandon mythic items altogether for now. You could instantly skip to the good part, to the items Zeri actually needs. Just rush Titanic Hydra for your first item, and then get Runar's Hurricane immediately after. AoE damage is an important aspect of Zeri's functionality, and since there is no real reason to get one of the now mediocre mythics, might as well get your AoE tools faster. And Titanic Hydra is not even that bad to build in lane. Most AD carries complain about lack of agency during the early game, frequently falling victim to the enemy mid and jungle as they simply go for a tower dive against you. However, with the Giant's Belt and Ruby Crystal components, you become incredibly tanky compared to other bot laners. And while offensive items give you stronger all-ins of course, you have to keep in mind that defensive items give you lane priority. An all-in engage is always inherently risky, so the more likely you are to survive when the enemy goes for that, the more likely it is the enemy just gets mauled by your minions. You could then build a mythic item third, I guess. Maybe Infinity Edge would now be fine? It's pretty hard to tell, and this problem is only relevant to those of you who wish to still play this heavily nerfed champion. Unless your happiness depends on it, just switch to a champion that is actually good. But what do you think about all of this?